Okay, thanks for joining our interview, Mr. Achebe. Can you share us about more your experience and your thoughts about the Nigerian Civil War?
Well, let me tell you a story.
Oh, Choku! Choku
Oh,
Okafor!
Matt.
Is that really you, my friend?
Oh, by the God, it has been so long.
Yeah, okay. Please, join me.
Okay, thank
We
you.
have years to catch up on.
Those were cherished times. But much has changed since we last met.
Yeah, I know what you refer to. The divisions between the North and South grew deeper by the day.
Yeah. The British regionalism has sown dangerous seeds. We both in the southeast feel so isolated, shut out from the power despite our education and capabilities.
Yeah, I know. I understand your frustrations. You know, I've disagreed with some of the stands taken by the emirs and the northern leaders. The traditional Islamic hierarchy aims to protect the centuries-old way of life. It's really a hard time, you know.
Yeah, I understand.
Sir, here's the coffee.
Thank you. At what cost, though? The North lags severely in economic development, health, and education compared to the more westernized South. However, my people are lack of opportunities.
And in the north, there are fears of being overrun by westernization, forced by the southern minorities. We want our own modernity, but on our own terms, not shaped by colonial powers.
The mistrust and misconcept cut both our way then. I worry that we are heading towards more conflict instead of the united, independent country we dreamed of in our youth.
Yeah, as do I, my friend. As do I. The rifts between our peoples run deeper than we have imagined.
Well, if it isn't my two esteemed Nigerian colleagues, fancy running into both of you on this momentous day.
Oh, Edwards. Let me guess. You've eavesdropping, and now you're going to pour more paraffin on this flame.
Come on, no need for such aggressive language. I'm just a little businessman looking after opportunities, same as you two are fighting politicians.
Opportunities. Your opportunities are stripping away our nation's resources and turning Nigerians against Nigerians to better line your own pockets.
Oh, I believe those long-standing natural and ethical and religious divisions had already been there long before we arrived on the scene. Our British just simply accelerated some of the differences according to our interests, you might say.
Like those consensus report, grossly exaggerating the North's population to grant us more political control at the expense of the South.
Ancient history. Oh, I have received some exciting news this morning and it should unite us all. New viable oil fields have been found in the eastern region.
Wait a minute. I sense a certain condition attached to allowing us benefit from our own natural resource.
Well, it's the responsibility for our colonial managers to ensure the proper distribution and utilization of those new petrol reserves for the good of all Nigerians. We can't make it free for all, can we?
Hello, sir. Okay, I know it. But people in the South will. Okay, I know it. Okay, I get it. It seems my colleagues have other plans. The coalition has decreed that all the revenues from the mineral resources now belong solely to the federal government.
What? That is outrageously unacceptable. The East wealth should go to its own people and development. We Igbo people will never be subjugated and pillaged again.
Whoa, gentlemen, let's not use such rush words and action towards some disappointment that can be overcome. I believe that new revenue sharing equilibrium can be negotiated and it should benefit all the parties.
No more negotiations, no more half measures, and no more unacceptable compromises. From now on, we Igbo people will be independent and control our own natural resources.
No, Choku! Choku, wait!
Well, this could be proved very, very profitable for those are wise and connected enough that can control over the risks. More coffee? This can be a long, lucrative day.
With the primary cause of the conflict between different political groups and races in Nigeria, and the direct cause of the conflict on division of profit from the petroleum found in the South area. The Civil War began in 1967, and from 1967 to 1970s, the war continued for 3 years, and it was 31 months in total, and it began with Biafra's succession, followed by a series of offensives and counter-offensives by both sides, and until Nigeria's final offensive in late 1969 and early 1970s led to Biafra's surrender and the end of the conflict. Then, the war ended in 1970s.
The Nigerian Civil War had drawn a lot of international attention. The United Kingdom, seeking for profit, was mainly on the federal government side during the Nigerian Civil War. When the war broke out, the Middle East was having a Six-Day War, which makes gaining oil from the Middle East cost high. In the consideration of maintaining a cheap and high-quality oil supply from Nigeria, the United Kingdom wanted to choose the side that could maximize its profit. At first, both the federal government and the Biafra was weak, and there was no significant tendency saying which side will win. But when the British must choose between the federal government and Biafra, it chose the federal government and provided it with financial assistance, because Biafra at the time was still lack of international recognition. It did not provide military aid to Nigeria until July 25, 1967. The federal government controlled the ocean oil terminal at Bonny. The United Kingdom also provided humanitarian campaign to Biafra during the famine, as a showing of its imperial responsibility. But because of its pro-Nigeria stance, the British government faced many criticisms from its civilians. France was one of the first countries that started to support Biafra. This decision was influenced by its relationship with British. It was competing West Africa with the United Kingdom. Also, by supporting Biafra, France could gain financial profit from oil in East Nigeria. It described the war as a genocide and provided Biafra with military and medical assistance. However, France did not recognize Biafra diplomatically. Some other camps that supported the federal government included Soviet Union, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the Organization of African Unity. While China and some African countries like Tanzania supported Biafra. In order to protect itself, Israel did not show a preference to Biafra. And because of the difficulty in diplomacy, United States also kept neutral during the war.
The war was finally over, but the results were so painful for the people of this land, and the conflicts still exist. Look what happened in 1966, the anti-Igbo pogrom in the northern area. Between 8,000 and 30,000 Igbos and Easterners have been estimated to have been killed, and half of these are kids. Nigeria used blockade as a tactic and starved the Igbo people. There were approximately more than 1 million people who died of hunger and illness. The war dehumanized people. The Igbo people surrendered in 1970. The mass death wiped out the generation of Igbo. As a result, No Igbo people could hold an important position in the government in the next 10 years. Igbo was devastated and its decline was inevitable. The Nigerian government also paid a heavy price despite the victory. The economy of Nigeria took a big hit, with the gross GDP falling by 20%. And what's more important is that the fire of struggle has never been extinguished. For this country, which has no political experience, political struggles have been breaking out all the time, and the Nigerian government took a land of Biafra. When those Igbo people came to their house after the war, they found that their land and properties was taken. People formerly in the government cannot be resonated, and moreover, the pre-war currency had lost its validity. All these actions are aimed at limiting Igbo's economy. Although the war ends, the conflicts never disappear.
Congratulations to the heroes of the North for beating those primitive, overreaching Southerners. Now we have the access to all the Nigerians' oil and resources, and let's celebrate the victory of the world.
Well, let's shoot the terrorists first. They've wasted so much of our money on the war. It's time to ask them to obey by the law. On that basis, thanks for the military help you have provided us. We are very willing to establish an international friendship with you. At the same time, we want our country to be modernized, to protect our oil and our people. Of course, excluding those in the south. OK，可以了。
Forgive me, Ojoku. It's a shame that we can't win against our own people. The city fell one by one, and they used the British weapons. However, the world offered help to us because of humanity. How cruel that we also need foreign help to survive. What were we supposed to do next? In post-war Enugu, going north and south we could get food. Perhaps we can cultivate the land of our history and build our own society again. But how long can we live under the oppression of the Northens? It doesn't matter anymore. At least we won't change our faith in our goddess.
It is clear that we Southerners have been brutally tortured physically and mentally by the Northerners. The Civil War was broke out our peaceful relationship for 1,000 years. It's also tearing apart the culture we've supposed to perpetuate. Before the war, I wanted to use the book Things Fall Apart to show our native diverse culture and religions, which have been gradually forgotten by our Northerners. That is our African culture that should be remembered by the whole world. Then in 1665, the Civil War was broke out. I saw the fellow citizens blinded by foreigners engaged in inhuman attacks against us. That was the last thing I want. I spoke up for Biafra and asked the world for help, but the failure of the war was not up to me alone. After the war, I tried to join the governing party in Nigeria. I still wanted to do something for our people, but I was disappointed by the corruption and discrimination of the government. Even after the Civil War, in the time of peace, we Biafrans were treated with contempt. So I wrote the book Civil Peace to document Nigeria's disintegrating society. Biafran's lives was like Jonathan Levip's, as I described in my book, Civil Peace. Even if the Biafra was lucky enough to survive in the war, they were subjected to unfair treatment and even looted. They were forced to live in a post-war environment, helplessly support family in the midst of famine. Biafra may have been defeated or never been recognized internationally, But we should not be ignored by the history and the world. We love our country and will continue to protect it, even if it's fallen apart by the hateful colonizers.
Wow, that's very impressive, Mr. Achebe. And thank you again for joining our interview. Thank you.